Well, with all the hype around the pitching matchups, we have two blowouts to discuss. The Tigers split the doubleheader against the Pirates. Let's talk about it all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Thursday, May 30th, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Supply House. SupplyHouse.com is a reliable way to get parts fast. Shop your next plumbing, HVAC, or electrical job and get fast shipping from coast to coast at SupplyHouse.com. The Tigers lose one and win one on Wednesday. Did we decide what we start with when we split a doubleheader? I feel like somebody suggested we should start with stuff, which is kind of funny. Just have the roundabout way of covering all of our bases there. But the Tigers do split a doubleheader. They're now 27-28 on the season. Big win in game one, an 8-0 victory, and then a big loss in game two, a 2-10 loss. So I think Jason Beck of MLB.com was the one who tweeted out, if you go by the aggregate, right, if this was a soccer, postseason kind of series, then it would be 10-10 in the aggregate. So weirdly close day, but two not very close baseball games. And honestly, the team that won both of these games, like, pretty clearly had the upper hand from start to finish, right? And like the Tigers, in game two, it was a little bit closer, as the game went along. There was a 3-run game at one point there in the middle of the ball game, but like at no point did you really feel confident that they were going to string some hits together off Skenes. And then by the time they did go to the bullpen, the Pirates offense kind of blew it open and we're up 6, 7, 8 runs. So it's one of those weird, it's weird. It's the only sport that plays, where it's allowed to play 2 games in one day. It's just everything's weird about doubleheaders. I've said this for a very long time, ever since I've been the host of this show. I'm going to continue this. I never expect to sweep a doubleheader. It is very, very difficult to do. It does not happen too terribly often. I never go into a doubleheader going, you need to win both of these games. You're behind the 8 ball, and they put themselves in a position to do so. I will say that, right? You had the big win in game one, and you didn't use any of your bullpen because Tarik Skubal is phenomenal. It's one of the things I guess we can start with, we'll get to Scooby, I guess, in a second, but only having to use Mason Englert in game one, it put you in such an advantage going into game two. You had your entire bullpen at your disposal. That was the beauty of going to Mason Englert in that situation, right? That was why Hinch did it. And it's weird to say I fully agree with going to Mason Englert in the 8th inning of an 8-run ball game. Like, that feels like a fine situation for him, but just, that really did set you up really well for game two. And obviously the Tigers did not do anything with that setup in game two. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. If we want to start with what went right, Tarik Skubal is certainly in that conversation. An absolutely fantastic outing by him. Early on, the command was a little weak, right? He got hit around. He gave up 3 hits all outing. He was not missing a ton of bats, at least to his standards. He was not missing a ton of bats. He was missing fastballs over the plate specifically. But the thing about Tarik Skubal, his final line, by the way, 7 innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, 1 walk, and 8 strikeouts. He now has a 2.01 ERA on the season. Unbelievable start, and he's an unbelievable talent. The thing with Skubal is that he can miss over the heart of the plate with his fastballs and still get swings and misses because it's such a good fastball. And obviously velocity has a lot to do with that, but also just like movement and angle have a lot to do with it as well. Like he just has such a plus fastball coming from that arm slot on the left side. And it's just, I want to say hilarious. Like, it's just funny to watch him go like, oh, like missed my spot a little bit, or, they're aiming up and away to a righty and it finds the heart of the plate and it's still just a swing and a miss because he has forget you stuff. And sometimes it's just as simple as that. Like, sorry, man, you got to take advantage of mistakes with a guy like him, and with stuff like that, it's honestly really hard to still even take advantage of quote unquote mistakes. So just something that I noticed, the first inning he was kind of taxed a little bit. The first couple of innings he was taxed a decent amount as far as just like pitch count goes. Again, the command was kind of, he was spraying the ball a little bit, but again, like he ended with 1 walk and 3 hits, he ended with 4 base runners and no runs in 7 innings. Like he calmed down great. And the biggest thing, they talked about it a lot on the broadcast, but the biggest thing with him is he is just a first pitch strike connoisseur, right? Like it is every single at bat, he is going to be ahead 0-1 if he has something to say about it. So then the Pirates adjusted and they started trying to attack him early, but he has such good stuff that they can't square it up even when they are swinging first pitch because they know it's going to be in the strike zone. He's unbelievable. He really is unbelievable. I cannot say enough good things about Tarik Skubal, and he is going to be and continue to be throughout this season toward the top of the American League Cy Young voting. And it would be really, really cool if the Cy Young returned to Detroit for the first time since Verlander, Scherzer, whoever got it last. So we'll keep an eye on that, but a 2.01 ERA on the season now for Tarik. And then obviously the other thing that went right in this game was the offense in game 1. We talked yesterday, Jared Jones was on the mound for the Pittsburgh Pirates. He didn't have a ton of swing and miss stuff in this one, which is very rare. We haven't seen that from him all year, right? He's now 11 starts into his major league career, and really all we know of Jared Jones is like wipeout swing and miss caliber stuff. He's got an absolutely incredible fastball. They actually showed a graphic on Bally where the starting pitchers that have the 2 highest average fastball velocities in the sport are Jared Jones and Paul Skenes. Paul Skenes at 1 and Jared Jones at like 4 or 5. So he has an absolutely phenomenal heater and a really good slider. In this one, he only used 2 pitches, which we talked about yesterday, right? Sometimes he can get a little tunnel visioned and only use those 2 pitches. He threw a few changeups. I want to say 7, 8, or 9 changeups, but it was pretty much mostly fastball slider, and he didn't have great command of his fastball in this game. He got ambushed really early, not only early in counts, especially early in the outing, but just in general, like Winfield Perez leadoff triple to start off the ball game. I don't know if it was weather. It was pouring rain and there was lightning and whatnot. Really wild. Look out my window, see the lightning, and then 30 seconds later see it on the broadcast is always funny. But like I said, Winfield Perez starts off the game with a triple. Obviously, Matt Vierling then brings him home. We'll talk about Matt Vierling in a second. Okay, my goodness. Really phenomenal start to the ball game. And the thing that I liked the most about this offensive performance, okay, was that this was not, and I was scared it was going to be for a second. I was scared this was going to be a 3-0 final, right? I have all the faith in the world in Tarik Skubal. I didn't think he was going to give up really any runs, which is maybe unfair to just assume that your starting pitcher isn't going to give up any runs. But I was pretty confident we were going to win, honestly, after the first inning. But I thought it was going to be 3-0. And I was going to come on here and be frustrated and be like, man, we did that thing again that I always complain about, where even if they do score in the first inning, then they just coast, and that's just it. They didn't do that. And even though, Jones kind of got into a rhythm a little bit there the second time through the lineup, when the lineup flipped over for a third time, they really punched him in the mouth. They were able to take advantage of a very poor Pirates bullpen in game 1 as well. I really appreciated the fact that they kept applying pressure the entire outing. This was not just let's take our 3 runs and Skubal's on the mound, so let's go hands off. They really did continue applying pressure, and we're kind of all over him and all of Pirates pitching in all of game 1. Obviously, that did not last into game 2. So we'll keep the ball rolling here. Got a few more players to talk about on the side of things that went right. Obviously, Matt Vierling being one of those. And then we'll talk about what went wrong and stuff. All right, we'll do all of that right after this. Got to talk to y'all today about our friends over at Supply House. Get supplies from the site that's made for skilled trades, supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy to use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. If you need help with an order, get expert support and industry leading service from the friendliest folk in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skills trade game can get a competitive edge as well by joining supplyhouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts in every order. So join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at supplyhouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online anywhere, just a few clicks away at supplyhouse.com. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, making us your first listen every day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will be back tomorrow recapping Game 1 against the Boston Red Sox. We'll preview that series a little bit at the end of the show. Also, be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today, the free 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. You can subscribe for free on YouTube or watch it for free in the Amazon Fire TV channels app. Tigers split a doubleheader against the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pirates fall to 25-30, or 26-30 rather. The Tigers stay the same, I guess. They are now 27-28. Came into the day rather, one game under 500, remained one game under 500. Got to talk about Matt Vierling here. Absolutely on fire these last, 5 games? He is in fuego. The dude cannot stop hitting home runs. He homered off of Paul Skenes in game 2, which is very, very difficult to do, but he homered in both games, and that's now 3 homers in 3 consecutive ball games for Matt Vierling. You know, and Evan Petzold has done a great job of the Freep and been all over covering this situation as it has progressed, but he has really been trying to adjust his load with his hands and change his mechanics and get around on the ball faster. That's something that we talked about on this show as well at length this offseason. If you were a listener in the winter, you are very well aware of what I wanted to see out of Matt Manning this season, and it was for him to pull the baseball more. And so far, he has been doing that more than he was doing it last year. And honestly, I don't mind, on a 2-strike approach, just make sure you get the bat on the ball. If you're going to hit it the opposite way, then fine. But on a consistent basis, he has objectively in his career found much more success pulling the baseball. And look, this could just be a hot, 5-game stretch. Like he had a crazy stretch last year where he homered in 3 or 4 straight games as well. And they were all very, very long home runs. He had that one Twins series, I think it was, where he just couldn't stop hitting homers. He's had a few of those in his career. So this isn't like, oh my goodness, Matt Vierling is about to be a 850 or 900 OPS hitter all of a sudden for the Tigers. But he's clearly finding his stroke and the adjustments that he made over the winter and in the spring. He's talked about them a lot. Like I said, a lot of our beat writers have talked about it a lot. And it's nice to see, even if it is just temporary, some sort of positive reinforcement for those changes being made. So here's to hoping that, again, I don't think Matt Vierling's ever going to be like the best hitter on the team, but here's to hoping that he can at least continue that momentum to some extent, and that the changes he made feel natural, and that he can continue at least producing at an above. Again, this is a guy whose career OPS, whenever we talked about it, 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, was 700. If you can knock that up and he can be a mid 700s OPS hitter consistently, even, I will gladly take that. I'm pretty sure he had a 699 OPS last season. Like if we can just knock him, up to the point where he's a slightly above or even around league average hitter consistently, I would gladly take that. That with some pop occasionally. Would love to see that on a consistent basis from Matt Vierling, given his positional versatility as well. Made a rough play in the field in this in game 2 on this day of baseball, which is worth noting as well. But that's kind of where I stand. Like I'm very happy. I'm very glad. This obviously is not going to sustain this level. I'm hoping that it's a direct correlation to the adjustments he made, and it's not just, oh, this is just a random hot streak. So we'll see. We'll see. But it's very, very nice to see at a minimum he is the greatest hitter of all time at the present moment. So good for Matty V, man. Good for Matty V. Let's talk about what went wrong in these two, rather. I'm so used to saying in this one. In these two games, Paul Skenes is really good at baseball. I don't know if that was something you walked away from watching game two thinking, but it's certainly something that I walked away from game two thinking. Absolutely phenomenal talent. And you saw it. The velo wasn't like sitting 102 in this one. A lot of 99 though, which is still, unbelievable. The craziest thing to me is the splitter. And again, he calls it a splinker, I believe, right? Because it's a 95 mile an hour splitter, which is like, imagine saying that in like the 80s, even 90s, even the 2000s, right? Even in the early 2000s. Imagine being like, hey, there's going to be a kid one day in the not like too distant future, like in some of your lifetimes, that's going to throw a 95 mile an hour splitter. The split finger, that pitch that like sits in the 80s, the low 80s, that there's going to be a kid that throws 95, one of those one day. Remarkable. And so with this outing specifically, he really dominated you with that splitter. And, we see like Joe Ryan is a great example. And Joe Ryan is a vertical break darling, right? For people who are really into analytics like that. Joe Ryan has next to no vertical break. It's a very flat pitch, which is really good and gets a lot of swings and misses, especially up in the strike zone. So there's a little bit more to it than just the velocity, but like Joe Ryan's a really good pitcher and doesn't blow you away with velo. And he mostly is fastball splitter these days, right? And so seeing a guy like Skenes who can do the fastball splitter thing, that like he threw a decent amount of sliders, don't get me wrong, but it was splitter more than any other pitch, fastball included. And then fastball was obviously the second most thrown pitch. Like this is a guy who really just killed you low in the zone with fastball splitter tunneling. And I don't know, unless you're just completely guessing, I don't know how you hit that. Right? I'm not trying to be too dramatic here, but like I don't know how anyone, unless you're just completely guessing, ball out of the hand, you're just like, I'm just going to guess and hope I'm right. And you are right on location and type of pitch, then I guess. But like, it's an 100. You have to respect an 102 mile an hour heater, and then potentially adjust to a 95, 94 mile an hour splitter. I don't even know how that's possible. So he's really good. And the Tigers offense did not do a whole lot in game two, obviously. Look, I'm just glad they got to one of them. Right. And maybe that's me. Maybe that's like loser mentality or whatever. Like maybe. But again, I don't go into doubleheaders expecting to win both, especially when it's two of the like hottest up and coming pitchers in our sport on the mound, especially considering how our offense has looked the last, this season. So I'm just glad they tagged one of them. I'm just glad that they got to one of them and we got to a point where, you know what, you split, you hit Jared Jones all over the yard for a little bit. I'll take it. I don't need you to light up Paul Skenes and Jared Jones for me to consider Wednesday a successful day. Okay. You went in a game under 500. You're leaving a game under 500. Let's go and focus on Boston is really my mindset. Torkelson had a really rough day at the plate. And then Riley Green. We'll talk about Riley Green for a brief moment here right after this. Got to talk to you today about our friends over at FanDuel. It's winner take all time in NBA and NHL season, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own right now. New customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. So we talked a little bit about Skenes, just how incredible of a talent he is. And then even outside of just the fastball splitter thing I was talking about, he's a really good slider. They got some swings and misses as well. Talked about Torkelson, rough day at the plate, just continues to look, the timing is just such clearly an issue, and it's about to be June, right? We have an episode tomorrow, and then the next time we talk after Friday's episode, it will be June. We're 2 months into this thing, and his timing is still absolutely in the gutter, man. Concerning would be an understatement, I would say. So we'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, Riley Green had a really rough month of May after a really solid month of April. And, I know he lifted a ball the opposite way and got whatever that was, a single or a double, maybe stretched it into a double in game one, but everything is a ground ball to the pull side again. And this is something that we have gone through with Riley Green every season of his career now. And that's, 3 years. But at some point in every season, we have done oh my goodness, Riley Green is just pumping everything into the ground. It's just ground ball after ground ball after ground ball after ground ball. And usually he makes an adjustment and then he starts lifting the ball and then he becomes incredible again. But these lulls and these woes where everything is just a ground ball to second or first base are unbelievably frustrating. And I'm sure they are for him as well. Frustrating is really the word. And we're just now sitting, waiting for an adjustment to be made where that isn't the case anymore. But we need some consistency out of that. I feel like I've been very laid back about talking about the struggles of Riley Green. I've probably been harder on a lot of other people than him because I still believe in the ceiling that he has. But if this is going to be a consistent thing where every year he's just going to pound the ball into the ground and you have to wait until he lifts it, that's going to put a serious limitation on the expectations for him in the future. So we need to see that adjustment made, and we need to see it sustainable. We need to see it over the course of the rest of the season. I'm not asking him to, win MVP or put up an 1,000 OPS. I'm not asking for every month to look like April necessarily, but I sure as heck don't need every month to look like May. So that is something that is very noticeable from Riley Green right now. And yeah, just the offense as a whole was obviously not very good in game 2. But again, that's one of the most talented young up-and-coming pitchers in our sport. And we did get a win today, so I'm not going to be too heartbroken about it. Let's talk stuff before we get you out of here. Kiter Montero made his major league debut, obviously, in this one. Let me pull up his final line here. I think he got a little fastball happy at one point. He goes 4 1/3, 5 hits, 4 earned runs, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts, and the 2 home runs against. You can see why the stuff plays. And we talked about that a little bit yesterday, right? Like he has major league stuff, and he has swing and miss major league stuff. His slider got a lot of swings and misses in this outing. He allowed the curveball up there a few times, got some swings and misses. His fastball got some swings and misses and some strikeouts. You can see why it plays. The reason why I think he is still kind of destined for the bullpen long term, which is not like a negative connotation. I always have to say that because people get offended, for people when I say that that I think someone is a bullpen arm. You need a good bullpen too. There's nothing wrong with that. But this is one of those things where he got way too fastball happy at one point. I didn't appreciate how Carson Kelly was calling the game at a certain point, but it's just one of those things where the stuff plays, but can it play 6 innings into an outing? Right? Massive question mark. And again, you saw flashes of it. But even when you look at what he has done in the minors, it is pretty consistently short outings, right? 4 innings, 5 innings, 4 innings, 5 innings. I think there's a reason for that, aside from just protecting the arm. The walk numbers are way up this year as well in the minors. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. He's going to get sent back down to AAA. We'll see how he does there. I'm really happy for him that he got to make his major league debut. Didn't obviously go wonderfully. I don't think he looked incredible. Obviously, gave up some home runs. That pitch to McCutchen again, just a little bit too fastball happy there. Was going to fastball up a lot in 2-strike counts, and they adjusted like major league lineups do. And then here we are. So I think I want to see how he develops from here on out, see if he makes any adjustments. But you saw, 5 strikeouts in 4 1/3 is not bad. And you saw the swing and miss stuff as well. The Tigers finally lose in the City Connects. So I would imagine they won't be the first road team to wear their City Connects in Boston. They finally put that winning streak to bed, unfortunately. But they did wear them in both of these games, obviously. And then the unfortunate news of the day is Kerry Carpenter is headed to the injured list with back inflammation of some sort. Not great. Akil Baddoo recalled from the minors, so he obviously started in game 2. One thing I noticed about Akil Baddoo, very, very noticeable changes to his mechanics, like extreme changes to his mechanics. The front foot is down and kind of like a toe tap. Like he's kind of on his tippy toe on the front toe. Open stance, which he's always had kind of an open stance, but like it's really open now, bringing the front foot over. And the biggest change is the load with his hands is kind of similar to what Matt Vierling is doing. Like it's kind of closer middle to the body, and then as he lunges forward, he naturally lets his hands go back and then swing. He did get the sac fly in this ball game, so I think that this is an adjustment where they're trying to get him to just make contact with the ball easier. This guy clearly has some pop. We've seen him hit, very, very long home runs. Like when Akil Baddoo gets a hold of a baseball, it flies, right? We've seen him hit some really big home runs, obviously, in his career, but the batting average has plummeted and the strikeout numbers have skyrocketed. So I think that this is kind of an adjustment where they're hoping that he can get more bat to ball contact. But something that was very noticeable, like first AB, I was like, whoa, that is not Akil Baddoo. Like I do not recognize that batting stance whatsoever, and made adjustments obviously in the minors. So hopefully they work. Akil Baddoo is a very, very electric player and is somebody that has a ton of tools. So I'm hoping that he can make those adjustments and become kind of that player that people thought he was going to be after his rookie year. And he's going to get that opportunity, unfortunately, due to an injury to our best hitter. Not great. Hopefully it is not something that is prolonged and something that's, a month, 2 months on. Hopefully it is. It's retroactive to 2 days ago. So hopefully it's just, I just said hopefully like 87 times, but I am very hopeful. Maybe I'm just trying to convince myself I'm coping. But I really, really, really am I'm crossing my fingers that this is just a short stint, because this offense does not need to lose its pretty comfortably best hitter at the moment, who has been on fire on top of that. I think that's it. Boston Red Sox this weekend, another 4-game series. The pitching matchups in game 1, you have Jack Flaherty against Nick Pivetta. In game 2, you have Kenta Maeda against Tanner Houck. In game 3, you have Reese Olson against Cooper Criswell. And in game 4, you have Casey Mize against Brian Bayo. Brian Bayo is one of my favorite young pitchers in the entire sport. I think I said this last year when we played the Red Sox as well. He was one of my favorite pitching prospects in baseball. I absolutely love him. I think he's the ace of the Red Sox future. Really excited to watch him. Hopefully he has a bad outing, though. Hopefully the Tigers can hit him. And the Red Sox are not a bad ball club, man. This is a team that is 28-27 at the time of this recording. And that is even in spite of crazy injury bug. Like more than any other team. If you think, if you're, obviously most of you are Tigers fans, but even if you're a fan of another team for some reason and you're just listening to my show, first off, I appreciate you. But no team has gotten bit by the injury bug worse than the Red Sox this season. Just a crazy string of injuries so far. And but at the end of the day, they've gotten a lot out of their pitching. Andrew Bailey has just completely said you will not throw a four-seam fastball if you are a Red Sox starting pitcher. And that has worked really good, really well for them. There's an argument that Bailey and Fetter are like two of the best pitching coaches in the entire game of baseball right now. And I think that's proof in the pudding by how well both of these staffs have gone without like super huge names so far this season. So something to watch out for there. Really good pitching coach against really good pitching coach. Going to be really fun in that way. And then they have Devers, who will consistently be one of the best hitters in baseball year in and year out. So we got our work cut out for us. This is a team that is probably better than you on paper, but also is around the same record as you, around a 500 ball club. And it is like I said, 4-game set in Boston. All right. Also wondering how they do the outfield with that weird outfield, obviously really deep and kind of juts out at the right field foul pole, and then the green monster in left. I'm wondering if they have any changes to the defensive, who's in left, who's in right in the outfield. That's a question I had going into the year, and now we'll get to see it. Okay. I appreciate you all greatly. We'll be back tomorrow recapping game 1. Okay. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch you all then, baby. Go Tigers.